Louisville's run game versus SMU's run defense is going to be a battle of strength on strength. And if SMU wins it, this could turn the tide in the Mustangs' favor.
You are Locked On SMU, your daily podcast on the SMU Mustangs, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to Locked On SMU, the daily podcast covering SMU football, men's basketball, and a little bit of something else here today. We'll get to that in a little bit. We're on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every single day, and now the #1 sports podcast network that is available. My name is Grayson Singleton, been a college football radio host for over 3 years in the Southern region, and today's episode is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off your first purchase with Gametime. We'll tell you more about that later on in the show. And speaking of the show, coming up, SMU men's basketball gets a comeback win over Butler. I'll tell you my takeaways from the game in a little bit. Plus, after the wild weekend, what does SMU's chances to get back to the ACC championship game look like as we sit here on a Monday? So we'll talk about that as we go along as well. But let's go ahead and start off with our most pertinent material. Louisville's run game, I almost called them LSU, Louisville's run game versus SMU's run defense. It is a battle of strength on strength. The foundation of Louisville's offense is based on their run game and based on being balanced. So Louisville's run game, Isaac Brown and Kejuan Brown, now the former of which did not play against Clemson, but the latter took off in that game against the Tigers on Friday night. Both of them average over 7 yards a carry. Just let that sit for a minute. They both average 7 yards a carry. Isaac Brown at 8.6, Kejuan Brown at 7.3. They are excellent running the football. Both are home run hitters. Both have generated enormous plays out of the run game. And because of the run blocking of the Louisville offensive line and because of the explosiveness of the running backs, this is one of the most balanced teams in the country. Their pass play to run play ratio is like 51-49. Like, they are incredibly balanced. And their whole offense is predicated on the fact that you can't key on any one thing. Because if you commit extra members to the box, they've got some pretty solid receivers, Chris Bell, Colin Lacey, out there for Miller Moss to throw to. But I did say it's strength on strength, right? Because SMU's run defense is one of the best in the ACC, right? SMU against the run in the ACC as I get back to looking this up, is third. The Mustangs are third against the run in the conference, behind only Miami and Pitt at 103 yards per game allowed. So this is going to be a game where, number one, you're not playing against a super mobile quarterback. Miller Moss has some athleticism, but he's not going to, draw the attention because of his mobility, okay? So you've got that out of the way. Cam Robertson, should be on his way back. He hasn't really played in the last 2 games plus, I believe, and you've had a bye week now. So this is going to be fully loaded strength on fully loaded strength for both of these teams. But I think if SMU can upset the balance of Louisville's offense, that'll play into the Mustangs' hands. Because if I am more than okay if you shove this game onto Miller Moss's shoulders. If you put this game on Miller Moss, yeah, the dude whose QBR ranks 64th in the country, I think you're set up pretty good with the way this team can get pressure and with the way the defensive backfield has been steadily getting better throughout the season. I feel confident that the team that leads the league, leads the country in takeaways with 26 on the season, I believe they can get it done if you shove this game onto the shoulders of Miller Moss. And that's what you have to do. And it's a very age-old type of approach defensively, stop the run, upset the balance, make the other team one-dimensional. But I do think in this game that will play huge because of all the trends that Louisville has displayed, especially over the last 3 games. I mentioned that they run the ball 51%, or they throw the ball 51% of the time. If you get them behind, they can start to come out of balance. The last 3 games, I looked this up yesterday. Louisville's last 3 games, they have actually run the ball even more. So Louisville, by the way, 54% is their pass to run ratio, 54 to 46. They have ran it a little bit more in recent games. Why is that? Because they've been in the game. They were 3-3 at the end of the first quarter with Clemson. They were 10-9 at halftime with Clemson. Why do I bring that up? And then also, by the way, they got a lead in the third quarter. They ended the third quarter up 19-13. Why do I bring this up? Because they want to stick to running the football. The trends are there. They ran it more as they were in the game and took the lead. So you want to get them out of that game? There's the recipe. The recipe is there. Get a lead, get a little bit of separation, force the game onto the quarterback's shoulders. Right? If you force the game onto the quarterback's shoulders, I think that plays in SMU's favor. Miller Moss, not all that excellent. SMU defense, very good at rushing the passer and taking the football away. I think that is your best recipe, your best road to upsetting Louisville's offense. And that's what I would try to key on if I were the Mustangs. So Big Terry Webb, Jeffrey Imbaugh, you can't get moved backwards. Cam Robertson, Isaiah Smith was really good against the run. Really good against the run against BC 2 weeks ago. That's what I'm looking at for SMU. You're going to rotate guys in. The linebackers have played the run very well, really all season long. Pass coverage has been where the linebackers as a group have had holes in their game. But in terms of playing downhill and playing the run, they've been pretty good. They've been pretty good this year. So, and I'm looking at this front 6 for SMU and saying, hey, this is your game. This is your opportunity to set the tempo for this game. It's senior night, final home game of the season. You know you're going to want to come out and set the tone on defense. No better place to do it than at home against a team who is excellent running the football. If Louisville is running the ball for 7-8 yards a pop, we might have problems, all right? But I don't believe Louisville's going to run it for 7-8 yards a pop. Not against this run defense. Could be wrong. I could be wrong. But I don't think they're going to do that against this run defense. And because of that, that's why I feel good about this game, because I don't think if I don't think you're going to run it very well, you better be Sawyer Robertson if we're going to put the game on the quarterback's shoulders. And Miller Moss has not been Sawyer Robertson. He's got good weapons. Do not get me wrong. He's got good weapons. But I just don't think. I don't think he's going to be the one against this pass rush on the road in what's going to be a pretty excited environment. I don't think he's going to be the guy to just put the cape on and lead this team to victory. So stop the run, force it onto the quarterback's shoulders, upset the balance a little bit, and I think you're going to be good. Hey, coming up next, SMU basketball got the comeback win over Butler. I'll show you my thoughts from the game on the other side as we continue on Locked On SMU on a Monday. The NBA is back, and there's no better place to get in on the action than FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Even if you missed the start of the game or you just want to ride a hot hand, FanDuel has live bets on everything, from who will score next to who can make a fourth quarter comeback. Plus, you can even combine your live bets into a same-game parlay for a shot at an even bigger payout. It keeps every game exciting, especially when your team's making that final late push. Right now, FanDuel is giving new customers $300 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. So head to FanDuel.com to sign up and play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. All right, welcome back to the show here on a Monday, Locked On SMU on the Locked On Podcast Network. We're the number one sports podcast network that is out there right now. I'm Grayson Singleton. Hey, make sure you subscribe to the channel as well. Make sure you go ahead and do that so we can continue to grow this Locked On SMU community, and appreciate all the everydayers that are tuning in and making us your first listen every single day. Hey, one thing before we get to basketball, SMU men's soccer has secured the team's, or the school's first ever championship as a member of the ACC, as they took down Virginia to win the ACC championship game 1-0 yesterday on a goal from Stefan Sogomonian. I hope I pronounced that correctly. But, one thing I found interesting about this game, and we will get to basketball here in just a second. One thing I found interesting about this game is that the Mustangs didn't even allow a shot on goal. That's impressive. I'm not the most well-versed in soccer. I'm not going to lie to you. I refereed it in high school. That was my job in high school. But I'm not too well-versed in it. But I know damn well allowing no shots on goal is highly impressive. That's impressive. Defensive game, defensive masterclass, and then you break through with Stefan Sogomonian scoring his 13th goal of the season. So hats off to Kevin Hudson. His fourth conference tournament title. Hats off to SMU for winning a conference title in the ACC. Could SMU football be up next? Hey, the path is there. The path is there. Stay tuned for the end of the show, by the way, because that's what we're going to talk about, the updated path to close out the show. But back to basketball. And SMU got the big win, 87-85, over Butler at home over the weekend on Saturday night. And, oh boy, that was a barn burner. SMU continues to be at its best when they are playing with pace. And that can be in the half court, but can also be in the open court off of missed shots. Boopie Miller, I think, is just the perfect point guard for this Andy Enfield style of play. And Andy Enfield, I said this last week, but he has leaned into what this team does best. I don't know if this team is going to be a team where you slow it up and you're executing in the half court, time in and time out and time in and time out. They can do it, but it's not the primary way that this team should play. This team should be in the open floor, off of missed shots, off of turnovers that you create, and they are athletic enough and they are smart enough and they run lanes well enough for you to be able to operate like that. So they continue to impress me with the way that they play with pace, right? 4 of 13 from 3 is not all that impressive. I think the shots are going to come as the season comes on. But right now, they're not a great three-point shooting team. But they're a very good slashing team. They are very good at penetrating and getting to the bucket and making the right play once they do that. So some individual takeaways outside of Boopie Miller, because I thought Boopie Miller was fantastic in that game. I still want to know who's going to be the second ball handler. And by the way, this came out up late in the game when Boopie was off the floor and SMU had to try to break a press. And what did they do? Turn the ball over without Boopie on the floor. And to me, that spoke volumes. You have to get a second reliable ball handler. Somebody's going to have to develop in that area. But Jaron Pierre, well, I like this kid. I like the Jaron Pierre Jr. And the reason I do is because I love two-way wings with length. I think that is, you have to have multiple of those dudes in today's modern age of basketball with all the spacing that's on the floor and whatnot. And the way you've got longer, bigger dudes who are able to do more 6'2", 6'3" type of things, right? And Jaron Pierre is that guy. I mean, slashing, finishing at the cup, can defend, can run the floor. He's a player. I think he's going to be a real player, and they're going to need him to be able to penetrate off the dribble and get paint touches, right? Because you're going to have to take some pressure off of Boopie Miller. You're going to have a dude that you can't just help off of. And no, he's not a knockdown shooter. So you're saying, okay, maybe you can help off of him. Not quite, because if he catches the ball and you've got to close out on him from a help position, he can take the ball by you for a layup, right? So you've got a good complement there. And BJ Edwards can do some of the same things. Corey Washington, I think, can do some of the same things as well, but I think he is their best slasher from the wing for SMU. Siment Yigatolu, I thought he played better. I thought he was more assertive. I liked how he defended. There was one block he had where he just stared down the dude that blocked him. And I'm like, yes, do that. Show some attitude, show some assertiveness. I liked what I saw from him. I liked what I saw from the backup center too, as well, especially in the beginning of the game, operating in the pick and roll game. He's very coordinated for a guy his size. He's very coordinated, very under control with his body. So I like that. There's a lot to like about this SMU team. They can score the basketball. Like, they're just pure scorers. They're not shooters because they don't shoot very well from outside the arc, at least not yet. But this is a team that can score 50%, 56% from the field, I believe is what the final tally was. So they can score the basketball. I still don't like the fact that this is how Butler got a lot of easy offense and stayed in that game. Butler got a lot of easy offense because they got a lot of paint touches. So I still don't like how SMU is defending on the perimeter. They're giving up a lot of paint touches, and Butler, they made the right play a lot. Get into the paint, play off 2 feet, find the open shooter when you draw the help, right? So teams are still getting easy offense on SMU because they are getting into the paint and collapsing the defense. So their perimeter defense has to be a lot better. Now, whether that gets better, whether it comes on as the season moves on, I don't know. Maybe it does get better as the competition gets better, but I think it still starts from a lack of ball pressure, right? And maybe they're not going to get ball pressure all 40 minutes because they're still really top heavy. This SMU team is like really they're only getting offensive contributions from 6 guys, maybe a 7th every game. I think there was only 10 bench points scored in yesterday's game, and it was scored by one person, the backup center, whose name, by the way, whose name is completely slipping my mind right now. There's the box score. Mitchell Holmes. He was the only guy off the bench that scored points. Now, he was 5 of 6 from the field in his 11 minutes, but Sam Walters didn't really give you anything. Jermaine O'Neal didn't take a shot in his 7 minutes on the floor. So they're still really top heavy in terms of offensive production. So that's going to have to remedy itself. And maybe because of that, that's why they're not getting consistent ball pressure. But ultimately, they're going to have to because they're giving up way too many paint touches early on in games and really throughout the game. But otherwise, hey, look, right now as you sit, SMU is 4-0. They have started out the season with 4 home games, and they are 4-0, and they can score the basketball on anybody. I'll give it up to you. I'll take it. I'll take a team shooting 56% from the field. They got to be better defensively. We all know that. But when this is your starters, Washington 2 for 4, Yigatolu 7 of 11, Edwards 5 of 9, Boopie 9 of 13, Jaron Pierre Jr. 8 of 16. When all 5 of your starters shoot 50% or better from the field, I will take it. That's hard to do. So SMU showed some good stuff. They still need to get better at certain aspects. But overall, the comeback over Butler, which, by the way, the critical juncture of that game was the first 5 minutes out of halftime. I think we all agree on that. They came out of halftime like gangbusters. Turned up the intensity defensively, got a lot of really easy offense, right? And with a team that plays with as much pace as it does, momentum is real key. If they can string together stops and get out in the open floor, especially at home, boy, they become a really, really tough team to beat. If they can just limit the paint touches from the opposing team, I think SMU, if they limit the paint touches from Butler, SMU wins that game by double digits. Because that's how Butler was getting their easy offense. So if you can just keep teams from getting paint touches, I think SMU gets markedly better just by eliminating that. But this team's going to be a pretty entertaining team. This is going to be a pretty interesting, entertaining team to watch as the season goes on. Coming up next, back to football. Did the Mustangs' path to the ACC championship game get clearer or murkier? We'll break it down to close up the show. This episode is brought to you by Game Time. College football is back, and I couldn't be more excited. The tailgates, the rivalries, and the energy in the stands, there's just nothing like it, as all of us have experienced this season. But let's be real. Actually getting tickets to games can feel like more of a battle than what's actually going on the field. Endless queues, hidden fees, the prices just mysteriously jumping at checkout. We all know the drill. But that's why I use Game Time, the app that gives the advantage back to the fans. It's the easiest way to score last-minute tickets at the best prices with no surprise fees. What you see is going to be what you pay. I pulled up Game Time, and in just a couple of taps, you can see amazing deals. Like, I'm talking your favorite college football games for as low as $25. And you know my favorite part about the app, the seat view. You can see the view of your seat before you even buy the ticket. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app and create an account and use this promo code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, that's code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go. Download the Game Time app today. All right, one more segment. And did SMU's path to the conference championship game get easier? Did it get clearer after the weekend? And I'm so glad our friends at the Dallas Morning News broke this down, because I was not going to try to do this again because it made my head spin. And even after an hour of preparation, thinking I got it down, I missed a detail the last time. So I'm not going to be the one to do it. This was summed up in an article, Dallas Morning News. Leah Asimakopoulos, who covers the Mustangs for Dallas Morning News, her and her team broke this one down. So basically right now, there are 4 teams that are still one-loss teams in conference play. Georgia Tech, Virginia, the Mustangs, and Pitt right now. SMU pretty much eliminated if you lose either of your remaining 2 games. So this scenario goes out the door with any kind of a loss. SMU needs to win both of its games. So there's basically 2 kind of scenarios here. And Georgia Tech and Pitt play each other this week. If Pitt beats Georgia Tech, SMU scenario is a lot simpler. All right. Pitt also plays Miami to close up ACC play. So if Pitt beats Georgia Tech, Miami, which by the way, Pitt got curb stomped. Anybody see that? Pitt got absolutely curb stomped by Notre Dame. Everybody was saying, oh, we got to root for Pitt because Notre Dame doesn't belong in the top 10. And Notre Dame said, hold my beer. And Notre Dame just whipped Penn State. I watched the majority of that game. Pitt was never in that game. Now, back to this. Pitt and Georgia Tech. If Pitt beats Georgia Tech and then loses to Miami on Thanksgiving weekend, SMU and Virginia are the 2 teams in the ACC. Again, assuming SMU wins out. All right? They would be the only 2 teams with a 7-1 record in conference play. So, there you go. It's plain and simple. Pitt win this week. Pitt lose next week. SMU and Virginia win out. Boom, there's your matchup. But if Pitt also beats Miami and Virginia loses to Virginia Tech, which is possible, and SMU wins out, then the Mustangs and Pitt are the only 2 teams with 1-loss records. So that's how the Mustangs get in. But if Pitt, SMU, and Virginia win out, that's 3 teams tied at 7-1. Now, none of these teams played each other, so the first 2 tiebreakers of combined head-to-head win percentage don't apply. The third tiebreaker, remember this is where it got hairy when we talked about this last week. The third tiebreaker, win percentage against all common opponents. The only opponents that all 3, Pitt, SMU, and Virginia played were Stanford and Louisville. And if SMU wins out, SMU would be 2-0 against those teams. Virginia would be 2-0 against those teams. Pitt lost to Louisville. So SMU and Virginia would be your title teams. So that's why it's the most simple if Pitt does beat Georgia Tech. If Pitt beats Georgia Tech and you win out, your likely opponent could be Virginia in the ACC championship game, which I haven't delved too much into Virginia this year. We'll do so if that happens to be the case. Now, if Georgia Tech were to win this game against Pitt, that is Georgia Tech's last ACC game because Georgia Tech ends the season against Georgia, which has no bearing on this, right? So Georgia Tech beats Pitt. That's a 7-1 record. They would automatically clinch a spot in the ACC title game. I'm not going to go through the reasons why that is. If you want to look that up for yourself, go ahead. But if they win, they are in the title game. If SMU wins out and Virginia loses to Virginia Tech, SMU and Georgia Tech would play in the ACC championship game because they would be the only one-loss teams. If SMU and Virginia win out, so now you've got the Mustangs, the Cavs, and Georgia Tech as the three teams with 7-1 records. Here we go. Neither of those teams played each other. Third tiebreaker of win percentage against all common opponents. The only three that the teams share is Wake Forest. SMU and Virginia both lost to Wake Forest. So you're still alive. Georgia Tech did beat Wake Forest, which is why, as long as Georgia Tech wins against Pitt this weekend, they're in. That's why they would clinch. So SMU and Virginia would still be tied. The fourth tiebreaker is win percentage against common opponents based on their order of finish, in which SMU and Virginia are also tied. So then the fifth tiebreaker is a combined win percentage of common opponents. And as it stands at this particular moment in time, and we'll stop here with this scenario, as it stands right now, Virginia would hold that fifth tiebreaker over SMU. Now, there are still a lot of games to go. There's a lot of permutations that could come to fruition here. So we're going to stop there and conclude the simplest path is for Pitt to beat Georgia Tech this weekend. Could they do it? Yes. Are they favored? Don't really got a damn clue, so I'm going to look this up. Right now, as it stands, Pitt is a... Where is it? Here we go. This game Pitt is an underdog. Pitt is a 2.5-point underdog. So there you go. We're rooting for an upset. The path becomes simpler if Pitt wins against Georgia Tech this week. Georgia Tech would be a 2-loss team. They are done in conference play, and they would have to hope to get to the ACC champ or the college football playoff as an at-large that didn't make a conference championship. And because the ACC keeps beating up on itself, probably going to be very hard to do. All right, so there you go. After the weekend, that's where we stand. If Pitt beats Georgia Tech and SMU wins out, you've got a really good shot of being in the conference championship game, a much bigger shot than if Georgia Tech were to lock up a spot in the championship game with a win this weekend. So that's the update to that. We're rooting for the Panthers. Come on, Pitt. Need y'all to pull the upset and beat Georgia Tech. That'll do it for Locked On SMU today here on the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every single day. We are the #1 sports podcast network that is available. Hey, make sure after you make us your first listen of the day, which we appreciate, for your second listen, make sure you tap in with our guys at Locked On ACC, Alex Dono and Kenton Gibbs. They'll take you through all the scenarios and the intrigue of the most interesting conference in college football, that is the ACC. So make sure you tap in with them on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. Appreciate you listening to us as well. We'll talk to you tomorrow as we continue to count you down to SMU and Louisville. Take it easy, everybody.